Colorado's population is booming. That includes the homeless population, and that is causing quite a bit of tension between people who claim they have the right to rest and people who say they're sick of seeing campsites in alleys and public greenways. This is obviously an issue that is not going away, and Denver 7's Connor Wist takes a closer look at a possible solution to the homeless crisis.
This area of Brighton Boulevard in RiNo has changed a lot over the years, and residents and businesses I spoke with also say this corridor leading into downtown Denver is also one of their biggest concerns. The path from the Salvation Army to services nearby is becoming more heavily traveled.
So we've seen probably a quadrupling of homelessness in Denver over the last 4 years.
The Denver Rescue Mission now serves more than 800 people a night with 3 shelters and provides the Lawrence Street Community Center during the day. But some choose to stay on the streets, and RiNo businesses are taking note.
It's not much of a burden, more of an outlook on how it makes our business look.
For residents,
something needs to happen. It's gotten to the point where it's getting hard to live down there.
Growing homeless camps and trash left behind are leaving frustrations in this developing part of Denver.
There's been times where they'll set up camp and have tarps and suitcases and shopping carts and kind of make a little village out of it, and they'll be there until somebody calls the police.
As for solutions,
deeper investments in affordable housing.
The city invests about $40 million a year on homeless programs and support. But some believe there needs to be a different approach.
It's not a housing issue from what I've seen. It's usually, a mental issue or an alcohol issue.
In RiNo, I'm Connor Wist, Denver 7.
Well, Chris Connor, the director of Denver's Road Home, is joining us now to talk more in detail about this. There are so many issues that come into play when you talk about our homeless population, and it's growing, right?
What we know over the last 4 years through our point-in-time counts, which happen every January, is that we've hovered around 3,500 people experiencing homelessness that we've counted during that exercise. That exercise is always sensed as an undercount because we certainly don't identify everybody who's experiencing homelessness, but really we've seen about 3,500 on either side of that, within a couple hundred people year to year over the last 4 years.
So it really hasn't changed that much, because I think a lot of people get the sense that the population has grown.
I think, it's fair to assume that the population is growing. Homelessness has certainly become more of a visible thing in the experience of Denver's neighborhoods. We've also seen a lot grow around homelessness, a lot more density. So there's a lot more eyes and people, same amount of space that people need to share, and I think that's part of the tension that we're currently seeing right
now. I know it's a big question, but how do you ease those tensions? What are we doing everything that we can do right now to ease those tensions?
Right. My efforts are focused on how do we bring the homeless and weave them in positive ways into the fabric of each community. We have a number of programs that do that. Our Denver Day Works program, employing people from the curbside level with the city to upkeep our parks, upkeep our public works. They'll be participating in the crushed graffiti removal in RiNo in a few weeks here. So we look for those opportunities, and then consistently our efforts to end homelessness. And what that means is, I'm certainly not promising that we're ever going to see a day where the city of Denver never sees anybody in homelessness, but it's an iterative process. We resolve homelessness for people every day. Since 2011, over 6,000 people have found permanency in housing through the efforts of Road Home and our partners. Unfortunately, though, for homelessness is beginning for someone each day too. So the process continues to be iterative. And
is it true that not everyone wants to have a permanent home?
What we know from the social impact bond, which is one of our flagship housing strategies, is we approached 300 people with housing, over 300 people. Only one of them turned that away. So what that tells us is when we're approaching people with the services they want in the way they want to be approached, we're not seeing a bunch of people who are preferring street homelessness to that opportunity.
But which presents a whole new issue. Is there enough housing out there?
Yeah, currently, any provider in any city that you look at across the nation is saying there is not enough affordable housing and there's not enough housing to resolve everyone's homelessness. The same's here in Denver, but we're leading through our affordable housing investments on starting to turn that ship around. Just a couple days ago, the National Alliance to End Homelessness released a report that found that the state of Colorado is second place in adding the number of permanent supportive housing units for people in homelessness across the nation. We trail California.
Because I mean, every day in our newsroom we hear from somebody who is on the verge of being homeless or living out of their car. What can you say to those people right now about how to find help?
My job is to help facilitate that help, to bring people in. On the first, if they're reaching out to us, I tend to direct them towards 211's information line with Mile High United Way. But we also provide street level teams. Our street outreach team are deployed to go out and meet people where they're at the curbside level, and be as resourceful as they can to them there. We're working to assure that any provider agency that you're walking through, you're going to get connected to more services than just that agency is providing.
So there is help out there? Is there help tonight? I mean, I think that, you know, there's so much of an immediacy when we get those phone calls that it's frustrating, I think, for everybody, right?
There is help out there. In the count I mentioned before, our point-in-time count, what we find there is that 80% of the people that we're identifying in shelter and transitional housing. That still leaves a lot of people who are remaining unsheltered that we continue to deploy our outreach efforts to. But there is certainly help out there. We want to get better at that help. We don't want to just be a city that's resolving the crisis with a shelter bed, but we want to be intentional about how do we take people in their time of need, how do we rehouse them in our communities.
And then to those, because this started with RiNo and people concerned about the populations living together, what do you say to those folks right now when most of us who've been here for a long while know that that's kind of how that area has been?
You know, I tend to talk a lot about, or what you'll hear me talk a lot about, is finding creative ways to kind of close that social distance between people experiencing homelessness and the rest of us who are housed. I think we need to become a city who isn't always saying, I feel compassionate but when we're tired on this issue, but we need to say, I feel compassionate and that and can be a great many things. I feel compassionate and I'm hungry or angry or scared. Those are fine, but let's continue to be a city that puts compassion on the front end.
And need to keep talking about this. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. By the way, if you ever have a question or a segment idea, you can tweet us at Denver 7 Politics. And you can watch today's segments anytime at thedenverchannel.com/Politics Unplugged. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you back here next Sunday for another edition of Politics Unplugged.